it's important, I think, how we think about balance. I think oftentimes we think of balance as in we need to be able to do all of these things. And I think sometimes family is more important, and sometimes work's got to be more important. They've got to take that priority.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be fantastic. Our returning guest is the owner of Royer Accounting and has been a long-time Pure Bookkeeping licensee and as well has been on the podcast several times. Andrew Royer, welcome back to the show.
All right. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. And Andrew, I mean, what the heck's been going on?
Well, we've had a few things since the last podcast. So we've had a few changes in staff. We had somebody that's went on a medical leave, and then we've added a new staff member full time, and so we've been growing quite a bit. It's kind of ironically we stopped our marketing, and then the phone hasn't stopped ringing since we've done that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And so we're getting to the point where we're probably going to be looking at hiring somebody else again. And then I was just listening to the podcast, so trying to remember what I said last time. And one of the mistakes that I had mentioned in the last podcast was having this commercial office space. I felt like we got it a little too soon. So we are, at the end of December, we will be leaving this office. So fixing that mistake.
Wow. Very interesting. So lots has been going on. And I also remind anyone who has not heard one of Andrew's episodes, we will have links to those episodes in the show notes so you can listen, catch up. But you also have 4 kids, family life, juggling a heck of a lot. So this is a lot of stuff that's happened in your life. How has that been on your own mental health?
Well, COVID, I think having 4 kids, hard for anybody. Throw in COVID, and it has not been a very fun ride. So,
I can imagine.
Yeah, I think one of the struggles just having 4 kids, and running a business, you hear that entrepreneurs are working 60 plus hours a week, and it just isn't really possible, at least for me. So I try to keep my goal is to try and work 35 hours a week, but that can be a real challenge.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So a lot of time I end up working after the kids are in bed again, do the 35 hours and then pick up the extra time at night. So all those things can really be a struggle. And then just with COVID, if kids get the sniffles, you got to keep them home. Trying to find somebody that's willing to watch the kids is a challenge. Daycare's closing. There's just a lot of things, and it's a big pull. It's trying to pull you away from the business that you're trying to build. Yeah, and just a lot more. There's a lot more time, a lot more pull from you have to take care of your family and not having the people to be able to help you there. So it's definitely been a big challenge, more so than normal. I'm thankful that I have, running my own business, I have the flexibility that I'm able to take time off for these things. Mm-hmm. But I think on the flip side, the downside is I have the flexibility to take time off for these things. So I think if I worked for somebody else, I would have been fired already. And so it just makes it hard to actually, you try and get the work done as well.
That's right. And as well, you have to take care of your own family, but you also have staff and you're taking care of or being at the mercy of what's going on in their life. And in fact, there's all these other things. I mean, people get sick in the best of times and have issues and life problems, but overlay COVID, and there's a lot more likelihood their people in their life maybe were exposed or they're actually sick or whatever the case may be. Has that affected you?
I haven't, not from the staff. I have 2 staff members. Neither one has kids except for the one that's on, medical leave does. But Yeah, so they haven't really had any issues with terms of staff, thankfully. So they've been helping me get through it by picking up the slack that I haven't been able to, which I'm very appreciative of.
Yes. Now you have, like I've said, 4 kids. You've talked about the challenge that work life has been. What advice would you give to anyone that's maybe new or going into this? How do you make it all work? How do you shut off at 35 hours and then come home? And I mean, obviously, I have a business and I have young kids, and I know sometimes I'm not the best dad coming out of a difficult day. How do you deal with all of those things?
Well, that last point that you mentioned, I'm still struggling with that myself. When we come home, I mean, I think one of the key things is to try and be present at work when you're at work, present at home when you're at home. You hear from a lot of people, it's like you're at work and you're worried about your home life. You're at home, you're worried about work. I'm trying to get better at just kind of focusing on work when I'm at work, focusing on home when I'm at home. But yeah, when you've worked a long day, it's hard. You get home and I just want to, you just want to sit in front of the TV and veg out for a bit, but you can't do that. You haven't seen your kids all day, and they've been in out of school care, and so they want to see you. So that's a challenge, but I'm trying to work on. And one of the things that I think it's important, I think, how we think about balance. I think oftentimes we think of balance as in we need to be able to do all of these things. And I think sometimes family is more important, and sometimes work's got to be more important. They've got to take that priority. Maybe not overall in your life, but I think at certain aspects, you've got a big project, you're going to have to stay and work on it. And then same idea as, something's going on with your kids at school, you're going to have to take time off of work and deal with that. So I think it's just a lot of it. I would, we have to think about how we think about balance. I think is a big thing. And
agreed. And as well, we're all in it together. I mean, just hearing you talk about it, myself, it's, our listener, you're not alone. We're all faced with similar challenges. Everybody has a different kettle of fish with your life, whether it's family, kids, whatever the case may be. There's always something. And so it's that juggle, and we're all trying to grow our businesses, which is not the easiest journey or pathway to take in life. So you throw this into the mix, it can be difficult, but there is a way, and you continue on, and you're continuing on and doing these things. I have some exciting news for you. The Successful Bookkeeper podcast now has a free global virtual event called the Successful Bookkeeper Summit. That's right, it's a 2-day online conference featuring 20 incredible speakers from the bookkeeping, accounting, and business worlds, some of which include best-selling author of Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, and pricing expert Mark Wickersham, to name just a few. At the summit, you'll receive tips on how to price your bookkeeping services, market your business, hire great staff, and so much more. It all begins on December 2nd, 2021. To secure your free spot, visit thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/summit. Again, that's thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/summit. Don't miss this chance to rise up and change your bookkeeping business in 2022. Register today, and I'll see you at the summit. Now, let's get back to our interview. So interesting. You said three big things changed. Let's talk about the commercial office, because that was one that you mentioned on the previous show. You had said that maybe this was a big mistake. Having made the decision to turn and get away from that mistake, what have you learned, or what was that like? Was it difficult to make the decision?
Yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, I love having the office space. I love having staff together. I already have one person working from home, so it's just me and one other person in the office here. But it's nice to be able to share ideas. But it's just from a cost standpoint. I mean, even that she wants to be able to work from home. There's times when I want to be able to work from home just to avoid the traffic and rain and everything else. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to be paying for an office that's going to be empty half of the time. And we don't have clients that really come and see us, especially with COVID. But really, even before COVID, we'd only have, we'd see a couple of clients every other month or something like that. And so it doesn't make sense to have this big expensive office when we're doing most of the stuff now is all Zoom anyways.
It really is. And have you noticed a change in the way you transact in business as a result of the increase in virtual work? We're doing things differently. I was having a conversation with someone this morning about the fact that there's been so many people forced to do something different, which is how you work. And there's new technology, there's improved technology, there's change in behavior. What have you noticed about yourself and your team and your clients as a result of the increase in virtual work?
Well, I think the biggest, we've always been virtual, and we've always been big on technology. So there wasn't much of a change on our end. I think what we're doing is we're seeing a little more acceptance, a little more patience from clients that aren't necessarily that big into technology. That's a big win for us.
So they're more open to working in the way you want to work.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they still may not be comfortable with it, but at least they're more patient in kind of going through the, back and forth. And I mean, we still have some clients where we met with one recently just to kind of bring them in and set that up. But most of the clients have just been very open to, just keeping everything remote.
Very cool. That's exciting. And it was the gist of the conversation as well this morning. Now, you stopped marketing. Tell us a little bit of that backstory, and then we'll get into the impacts.
Yeah, well, we've been spending a lot of money on marketing. I've been trying to grow the top line to kind of cover all of the costs. So this is where in the last episode, I talked about how we were focusing on the top line revenue and the expenses were kind of following with that top line revenue, spending more to try and earn more. And we really needed I was doing everything that I could to try and get the cost down as much as possible, but we really needed to bring in the extra revenue to be able to afford what we were spending. So I've been spending quite a bit of money on marketing in the hopes that, we could double our revenue. And it just wasn't working. I mean, I'd spent money on all this, I went through four different marketers, and all promising the moon, and just nothing was ever materializing. And so eventually I just, I said enough's enough. I put one firm, went on to commission, but then they never received a commission because we never got a single sale. And that was the last team that we used. And then so I said, enough's enough. I'm just going to stop spending money on it. And what was funny is that it was just kind of like ironic within a couple of months after ending that, and that relationship had gone on for quite a while. And after we ended that, then the phone just started ringing, and they'd seen our online presence, and I just thought it was kind of funny. I was starting to focus on other things. We're starting to focus on how we could deliver the product better and keep up with the work that we had, as opposed to trying to bring on more work. And then the work started coming.
Wow. And so, looking back at some of the things that you did do, what were some of the most successful? Like you said, your online stuff started to get some traction. Was that a particular project that you had undergone previously, or?
Well, I only suspect it was we had paid a company to do some search engine optimization, and I can only assume that that's started to work just much later than they promised that it would. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I can really attribute it to. Although we have also a fair number too has still been referrals, and so I think other people's. So what we do is we get referrals from other accountants, and I think a lot of and we get a lot of their overflow, and I think a lot of their there seems to be a lot more people that are kind of searching for an accountant right now, and for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's because of COVID or because they're working from home and they've got some extra time to kill, and they're just for whatever reason.
I'm going to call an accountant today.
Well, it seems like that people have just decided that they're going to start a lot more businesses, and there seems to be a lot of referrals and so forth that are happening now.
Interesting. So the SEO seems like, because you've got an increase in traffic and conversions from from your website, but as well referrals are up. So it's more so in terms of the work you've been doing to build your reputation, build your network, versus the actual feet on the ground marketing, and that's interesting. I mean, it's just, I love to highlight that point. I mean, anyone that has not gone through the buying of the ticket to the moon, is that many companies out there will overpromise, especially in marketing, especially around, we're trying to double our business. We're trying to get more sales. We're trying, like, it's very alluring, right? And it can be a real good trap. So if you're going to hire somebody to do anything around marketing, you've got to be very careful that you're actually hiring someone that can actually do what they're saying they can do. And just because someone can do it in one industry doesn't mean they're going to do it for you in your industry. And so there could be a lot of money left, put into the trash or into the toilet as a result. So be wary, but you've had to figure it out, and you'll learn something as you've done it, I'm sure, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good to see that's happening. Now, staffing. You've got someone on leave, and you're looking to hire, or a couple of people to hire. What's going on in that area of the business?
Well, right now I've hired so I used to have a full-time and one part-time person, and I still have that. The part-time person's on leave, and so what I've done is I've hired another full-time person. Mm-hmm. So we have 2 full-time, other than myself, so 3 full-time. And we're just, at this point, I'm kind of just reviewing the numbers and making sure that I can see if I can afford it, or see what I need to do to be able to afford potentially hiring somebody else on.
That's right. Very exciting. So now you've been at this now. You started your business in what year again? It was
2017.
2017. So 2017. So we're 21. So that's like 4 years now.
Yeah, and this will be I'm almost done my 5th year here.
You're almost at your 5th year of you're starting your business.
Right.
So 5 years in, you've got 2 full-time staff, yourself, you're looking at hiring another. When you started 5 years ago, when you think about that and you think, I'm 5 years in, where do you think it was harder than you thought it would be? Do you think, what were some surprises? What were some setbacks? I'd love to hear your thoughts at the 5-year anniversary.
Yes, certainly. Well, it's interesting because you always have this vision of where you're going to be in 5 years, and you always, I think you paint be driving a Lamborghini or something, right? But it's
yes.
So you have those 2 visions, but you also have that realistic thing in the back of your mind, like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything, and it's definitely been a lot harder than I expected it to be, for sure. I remember, I think my first year, on my tax return, I think I had $250 in income, so that was a little rough. Mm-hmm. I think things are going. I don't know. It's a bit of. I'm short of the big vision, but it's definitely been a challenge. But I'm happy with the way things are going. A lot better than I feared.
Yeah. It is interesting to see the vision. The vision can be the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, but then it kind of gets cloudy, and then you look again, and it's the old jalopy, same mm-hmm. color, maybe a bit of rust and whatnot. So it's a bit of a mindset game as well. And so you're now, COVID as well would have been. Nobody would have expected that, and that's caused a wrinkle in the gears. In some ways, it's going to be advantageous. In other ways, it's a setback. But if you think about the next 5 years, what if you took a pause and said, "Okay, 5 years from now, has your vision changed? Do you have I'd love to hear a little bit more about what the next 5 years might look like for you."
Well, I think what I'd like to do now, like, I'm getting out of the office now, kind of using that money to pay off the debt that we've accumulated with all that marketing that I talked about. And so right now I see us in the next 5 years are going to put ourselves in a lot more solid foundation. And then I'd like to we're going to, continue to grow, continue to add more staffing. And then I'd like to get back into commercial office space within that 5 years so that we can all be together again. It's not necessary, I don't think, for our this profession anymore, but I still think it's something that I've always wanted, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that. And I see that happening. I see a lot, we're having a lot of really good growth and being able to, I guess the biggest vision where I'd like to be in 5 years is I want to be the least important person here. I'd like to be able to be working a lot less, be able to take more time off, and be able to probably start another division in the business or make some major changes and be involved in something else, but have the actual, the business as it is running itself.
Wow. I love it. It's exciting. So you've already started to create your next 5 years. Now, if you could go back in the time machine to when you first started your business, I'd love to hear what you would tell yourself. Andrew, look out for this. I mean, we know it's the marketing shenanigans, but are there other things that you'd say, hey, think about this, maybe not do that, maybe do this? What were some thoughts around that?
Well, yeah, I think a big thing is, like I talked about working evenings and working on the weekends and that. And I think one of the big things that I would have done is that just because you hear of other entrepreneurs are working 60 hours, and there are going to be times when you have to work long hours. I think what I would tell myself to do is to try and keep the work to that your 35 to 40 hours that you need to do so that you have that balance with family. What I found when I was working those long hours is that it would just getting myself burned out. And then I'm not able to then spend the time with, or not be present with the family because I'm feeling so tired. And I'm not really focused at work because you're exhausted because you feel like you're working all the time. That probably would have been the big thing. I'm communicating with my spouse more, communicating with my wife more, I think is, just to make sure, so that we're on the same page of when I do need to put in those extra hours, and then where she's able to help out and where I need to be home with the kids and where I need to help out. I think we've done fairly well with that communicating, but always could have been better.
It's some great advice, and I love the thought of the 35 hours because we know Parkinson's law is that the work will fill up the time allotted. So if you start off thinking, okay, well, 60 is my limit, well, you're probably going to work to fill the 60. But if you said, no, it's 35, you're going to figure out how to keep the work to 35 and get the work done in 35. I mean, that's the power of that law. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but I think that's great advice to anyone who's getting started. And in fact, anybody who's maybe working too many hours, if you're noticing the ups, the downs, the burnout, they can come and go. There's nothing wrong with saying we're going to do it differently now and shrink this down, like you've done, Andrew, is saying, well, I'm going to keep it to 35 and do my best to do that, and have it be an outlier when it goes to 45 or 50 or whatever the case may be. I think it's a fantastic thing to think about for all of us, because burnout is sneaky. It can catch up and all of a sudden just be there, and it's tough to deal with when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to prioritize. Why are you working 60 hours? Like, what is it that you're doing? And I think if you start looking at a lot of the things that you're doing, it's probably because you're working 60 hours, you feel that you're entitled to, spend 2 hours chatting about something at work. And, that's 2 hours you could have gone home sooner, right? So I think there's a lot of, prioritization issues there when we start working those long hours.
Absolutely. I see it in my own day. I mean, if I think I've got an open day, I'm not as productive. It's like when I've got a full day, lots of meetings in between, and I have a certain cutoff date, I get a heck of a lot more done. And so it's one of those mental games, and it's what we know can occur. So a great tip. And then the other one is communication with your spouse, with your family, making sure that they're in. It's a good point. And how much does your wife need to know about the business? Like, is it just, does she get what you do? Does she understand business? What does that relationship look like for you?
Well, she doesn't really get the business side, and then sometimes I think she feels frustrated. I have an issue in that I can't stop talking about it,
which is a good thing.
Yeah, well,
a bad thing.
But she doesn't always know. She doesn't always know how to respond because she doesn't feel that she's has enough of expertise on it to provide an opinion. So that can be challenging. But I think just like more from the communication side, she knows what's going on in the business. She knows that, well, okay, well, I understand that you've got this big project coming up. I understand if you have to work tonight. I understand if, I need to do this for the kids, this week. And same kind of thing. I know what's going on in her life. And so if she's got, she needs to get out, see her friends, whatever, then I need to be home on time. I have to be leaving the office. I can't be working late that day. And so having that communication and respecting each other, that goes a long way.
Absolutely. It's an interesting one. And now you will be working from home. Is that the plan now? You're leaving the commercial office soon. Mm-hmm. You're going to be working from your home office. How is that before you move to the commercial office? Do you have any ideas of how it will work now?
Well, the big issue and the reason I got the commercial office in the first place was because I was hiring. I wanted to hire staff, which I ended up not doing right away. But prior to that, it was also I was spending so much time meeting with clients and going to Starbucks and Tim Hortons, and there was just a lot of driving. So I'm going to try and avoid that and just do to meet clients just through Zoom meetings. And the people that don't want to do that, I guess they find somebody else. And if I really need to make an exception, I can. I'm still going to have like the same mailing address. I still have access to an office here if I need it. I just need to pay for it whenever I need to use it.
Nice.
It'll be available if I need it. I'm just going to try and keep it to a limited. I mean, for the most part, the kids are going to be in school, and they're still going to have the same. They won't be around, which is would allow me to keep working, which will be fine.
Beautiful. Well, it's kind of interesting and a nice model because to your clients, there's going to be no change because you have the office. You can go there when you need it and pay on demand, if you will. And then you've eradicated all sorts of travel time for getting to the office. And also you've made some choices and decisions on how you're going to meet clients. I mean, it's either Zoom or nothing.
Right. And also, and staff, I have right now, half of my staff is working from home. And like I said, the other one wants to work from home a fair amount. So I will actually in my home, one of the issues between now and the end of December is I got to actually get my office renovated at home. So I want to get it cleaned up. And then I'm going to be setting up a space so that the other employee can work there when she wants to.
Nice.
So we will, and especially come tax time, I think that'll be handy to have us both in the same room. But I think for the most part, working remotely, we've been set up to do that right from the beginning. So just allow us to take advantage of that.
That's great. And on that remote working, I mean, what are some strategies that you use in order to keep in communication, to, work the technology and communicate? How does that look for your business?
Yeah, well, we have Slack channel open all the time. So we use Slack to do the instant communication throughout the day whenever we have questions. And then we do a weekly Zoom meeting. And then I'm actually going to be setting up 1 hour a day to meet with staff if they need me. So I just have a specific time set aside so that they can just jump in and ask me any questions.
Very cool. Very cool. Sounds like you've got a great virtual working culture, and then in terms of the family, how does your wife feel about you coming back to the home office?
Well, I mean, she's been pressuring me to do it for a while. I mean, I was in a lease, so I couldn't do anything about it anyways. But she thinks it makes sense. Just from a cost perspective, it seems a little crazy to be spending the amount of money that I am. Maybe like once we get to say 5 or 6 employees, then maybe we'll have the finances available to get back into it. But at the moment, it's not really necessary, and it's just an added expense.
Exactly.
And our home, like I said, we bought a fixer upper. I think I mentioned that. I think a while ago. I don't know, it's probably 4 years now, and I still haven't done anything with it. So this gives me an excuse to at least get the office done. So she's excited about that.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I do remember that. So it's 5 years in. You went from a stable job, 4 kids, to starting a business. For those that are listening, thinking about making that leap, for that type of listener that has not started their own business, what advice would you give them about making the leap?
Well, where do I even start? That's I've always been passionate about business, so it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's been a challenge. I think a lot of business owners start, or someone thinking about entrepreneurs thinking about, what they're doing as a technician in their job. And there's so much more to it. It's like you wear so many hats, the marketing, administration. So I definitely think it's rewarding. I think it's worth it, but you have to have the right mindset for it. And I would just suggest get as much help as you can. And I think business owners do like to talk about themselves. So it gives you an opportunity to reach out to different business owners and ask for help wherever you can.
Beautiful. Andrew, it's always a pleasure chatting with you and getting updates from you. I love hearing how your family's doing and how your business is doing. I can't wait to see what the next 5 years look like for you. And hopefully one day I show up and you're driving a fancy red car, and I won't even say which kind that is. I'll let you make that up in your mind day by day. But Andrew, this has been great. And thank you on behalf of our listeners for your generosity today.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Really appreciate it.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.